Jump into the next millennium with the Nitro Girls. This 15-month calendar contains hot, exclusive photos of Nitro's favorite sweethearts.
Now you can have
the Nitro Girls
every day
of the week.
Get your Nitro Girl calendar for only $15. Just call 1-800-WCW-8661 or write to the address on your screen.
Hey guys, it's Superman's here. You're listening to the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast. Only on the Counted Out 7 YouTube channel. Jay, let's go!
Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to another brand new edition of the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast. My name is Jay, and I am joined, as always, by my good old close personal longtime friend, Tyrone. Tyrone, how are you, pal?
What the fuck did you call me? Tyrone?
Tyrone. Remember Earthquake and Tyrone?
No. You just started this off on a great note, you fuck. I've never heard that one before. I'm all right, dude. I'm all right. How you doing these days?
I'm all right, pal. Burning the candle at both ends with work and play, but play being the podcast and notes and all that kind of thing. But all things considered, life is good. 2021 has come and gone, and 2022 has been an interesting ride, to say the least. But all things considered, I have my health, I have a fridge full of food, and I have a roof over my head. Life is good.
Yeah, that's always the best way to look at it. You got to go with the optimistic side, because 2022, I'm not going to lie and say it's been a great year, because it hasn't so far, but it's been better than 2021, which, when the standards are that low, I don't know if it's really that hard not to beat it.
Yeah, you'll get no argument from me. I don't know. I would say that I'm about on par right now. I'm not 100% sure where we're going to go with 2022, but I think that there's a lot of optimism, and there's certainly a lot of optimism in the road to WrestleMania this year. You and I talked about it off air. We're not going to get into specifics, but I'm rather excited for this year's offering of WrestleMania. It seems like it's going to be quite a fun card. Spoiler alert here, folks. We do record a little bit in advance, so we're not going to touch on exact moments, as we probably are unaware of precisely what's happening at the time this episode drops. But suffice to say, where we sit right now, I'm pretty stoked about what's happening and what's coming up on tap in Dallas. Do you have any kind of general thoughts about the road to WrestleMania this year, bud?
As of right now, I could not care less. There is nothing that I want to see less right now than Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. Brock and Roman... It's the first Brock and Roman match that I've actually cared about and think will be okay. I'm still not fully sold. I don't know where they're going with a lot of the other guys. They've got a lot of former champions, recent former champions, that seem to have just fallen by the wayside. And I think that we're going to actually see, I told you this through text message recently, I think we're going to see Big E win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal this year. I truly think that he has fallen that far. That's where he's going. He's back tagging with Kofi. Like, the guy was champion a month and a half ago. I don't get it.
Yeah, stranger things have happened, that's for sure. I mean, you know, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal is the who's that of professional wrestling. We generally don't know a lot of the faces and names, and if you do, then you are probably watching the weekly episodic WWE offering more than both Tyrone and I are. But we'll move past that. We'll talk more about the road to WrestleMania as we approach the show of shows. This week, speaking of a show, Tyrone selected for me to rebook WCW Super Brawl 9. Took place on February 21st, 1999 at the Oakland Arena in Oakland, California. I gotta say, Tyrone, 1999, arguably my favorite year of WCW. Maybe not the fall, but going through the spring, winter, and of course the summer months, I really did enjoy WCW 99. I know a lot of people have a distaste for it. Where do you land on your thinking towards WCW right towards the end of the century?
Like, do you want to know what I think of WCW as a whole from their entire existence, or just around this time? Sorry, you worded that kind of weird.
No, I'm sorry. I meant to say, what did you think of WCW right now as we're approaching the turn of the century, hurtling towards the year 2000? We're in 1999. What did you think of the 1999 offering and presentation of WCW?
If I'm being perfectly honest with you, we've spoken about this in the past. It was hard to get WCW up in Canada around this time. So in 1999, I wasn't really watching it. I kind of knew what was going on from the PWIs and from the Inside Wrestling magazines that you would be able to find at your local newsstand. But that's really where my knowledge got. Like, we had Thunder, but we didn't really have Nitro. We could watch Thunder every week because for some stupid reason, that was what we got. So, we got all the highlights of Nitro, and then we got a lot of Queelee matches. But that was the highlight of my WCW 99. It's as I got older, though, and I went back and rewatched a lot of it, this era is definitely kind of, to use your phrase, you can see that the bloom was off the rose, or the rose was off the bloom, whatever you say. It was coming to an end. Like, you're reaching 2000, where soon we're going to see the horrible title runs of the Scott Steiners, the Sid Viciouses, the David Arquettes, the Vince Russos, and we're kind of getting away from the real workers that they have at the time with their Chris Jerichos, who they're going to lose. It's still heavily NWO, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. They all still seem to be, for lack of a better term, letting the inmates run the asylum. And it's not my thing at this era. Now, you want to talk WCW 92, 93, then that's where their prime was.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I can't necessarily argue with some of what you said in terms of where, that we would go to into the 2000s. I do think that an argument can be made that had the constructs of the company been a little bit different, that a Scott Steiner title run would have been rather successful. I've always been of the opinion that had the company maintained its stature for a few more years and had not been bought out by Vince, that Scott Steiner in WCW was close to becoming a megastar. He was very close to touching that particular glass ceiling. I think that he was really over. He was hitting his stride, and maybe that little bit of gap between where he was in WCW to WWF in 2002. I think he lost something, but he was on the ride.
I don't think that you can say he wasn't a megastar. He was a megastar by this point. Or maybe not this point, but by the time the company folded in early 2001, Scott Steiner was a fucking huge star. He wouldn't have gotten much bigger because there wasn't talent that they were building and elevating, A, for him to kind of let them go over and then chase again, and B, how many times do we really want to see Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell or Lex Luger or these names that they just constantly kept at the top to all the way till the end, which made no goddamn sense. Scott Steiner is not the person to me that is going to move the needle of your company all the way from one end to the other.
I don't think
he was fine, but I truly think that Steiner peaked in around 99, 2000 when he started to get so goddamn jacked that his hair decided it needed to leave and turn blonde. That's when he really started to lose it. He wasn't doing the same things that he was capable in the ring a couple of years ago. He was too big. He was too jacked up. And then he started to get, drop foot once he went to the WWE, and they realized he was a goof who had a purple thong hanging out while Triple H beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think, first of all, that anybody could have necessarily moved the needle from one end to the other, to use your analogy. We were at a point with WCW that nobody could have pulled up the nose at that point. What I'm saying is that had the company not folded and stayed open for a few more years, I think that Steiner would have been able to be contributing to moving that needle. And in fact, I think he could have potentially been the face of WCW. I think they had cooled off Goldberg to the point where he wasn't going to really do a whole lot. He might, reignite had they booked him properly. But the bottom line is that we do have a very interesting set of circumstances going into 1999. We've just come off in canon the finger poke of doom, which a lot of people allude to as kind of like the death nail in WCW. I don't necessarily agree. I think that it was a slow burn from that time onward. But with that being said, Tyrone,
I just want to drop an unpopular opinion for a second here, and that is, I really think that one of the biggest fucking beginning, like maybe not the biggest, but the beginning of the end for WCW was when they brought in Bret Hart and didn't really use him. That just showed to me that, all right, cool. Like, you have the hottest free agent in the entire sport right now, and you're having him as a guest referee with no, like, you shouldn't have brought, it should have been a full surprise. He should have come out after the show, if anything, and challenged the champion. That to me is where I think WCW really started to go downhill.
Yeah, I think that by the time we culminated the Sting Hogan situation in 1997, I mean, that arguably 97 was the best booked year of WCW during the Monday Night War era. I don't disagree with you. I mean, if it's me, I'm doing everything I can to tell Bret Hart, listen, you need to get on a plane from Montreal all the way over to wherever they were hosting Nitro the next night. I hope it was Memphis, so I could say from Montreal to Memphis. But the bottom line is, you get Bret Hart on your TV the next night, and you get him out there enraged. It would pop the biggest rating probably of WCW's history at that point. I do agree with you 100% that when you get a talent like Bret Hart, I don't buy this. I have a lot of respect for Eric Bischoff, and I do enjoy his podcast, but I don't buy this narrative that he says that Bret Hart was a shell of himself. He had nothing left in the tank. I don't buy that for a second. I think that he was just saddled with a lot of shitty ideas, and I don't think that he ever got the opportunity to fully live up to his potential because of the politics backstage.
I agree with you 100%. And we know I have definitely spent my fair amount of time on this show not talking kindly about Bret Hart. But he, you know what? In this case, I will say they screwed Bret, because he really, really got fucked over in WCW. Like, yeah, maybe towards the end of it, he was becoming a shell of a man and didn't want to do anything because they weren't doing anything with him. If I were Bret at that point, you're right. I would be upset too, but I would be still in the company to collect my $3 million contract and just be like, all right, whatever, I'm doing this for my family at that point. I fully understand why Bret would have potentially, allegedly, turned into a shell of a man.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's I mean, I could definitely see by, towards the middle of his run, he was seeing that it wasn't going to happen for him. But I definitely don't get the impression from everybody I've heard speak on Bret and his work ethic and his commitment to the business. I don't see Bret showing up in WCW, especially with the fire lit under him by Vince being screwed in Montreal, that he would just show up and be complacent. I think that he was there ready to shove it up Vince's ass, and it just didn't, for whatever reason, end up aligning for him in Turner. But with that being said, I know we've got on one of our illustrious sidebars, Tyrone. Are you ready to get into this booking of the WCW Super Brawl 9? And if you are, do you want to fill our listening audience in on exactly what's going on in canon in and around this time frame?
Yeah, I guess I'm ready. I can't really say I'm overly excited to talk about this, even though I picked it for you. So I guess I have nobody to blame but myself. Going on in the company at this time, all your champions are as follows. I'm not going to lie, Jay. I don't know much about what's going on in the company at this time. All I know is we're coming off the finger poke of doom. My mind is blank on this era of WCW, but I can tell you that your champions going into this event were Billy Kidman had the Cruiserweight Championship. The WCW Tag Team Championship was vacated. The World Television Champion was our good friend Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. Our United States Heavyweight Champion of the World in 1998 was the same man who held it in 1982-83, and that is the Rowdy one, Hot Rod Roddy Piper. And to nobody's surprise, your WCW champion going into this event is Hollywood Hulk Hogan. That's really all I can speak about with this. I don't know enough about the era, Jay.
That is fair. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, as we do customarily on this show, I am going to turn over the table with this particular booking and with this particular era. Now, I do want to preface the point that I am not going to go too far into bookings past, as Tyrone and I have not touched upon the two previous pay-per-view offerings in 1999 being sold out, and then 1998's version of Starrcade. We have not touched upon those events. So I've left the booking going into this event rather vague so that it doesn't necessarily keep either one of us pigeonholed into booking a certain way going forward as we look back upon those aforementioned events. So with that being said, I am ready to go with our opening contest.
Our opening contest of Super Brawl 9 is Booker T going one-on-one with everybody's guilty pleasure favorite. I don't care who the hell you are. At some point, you secretly loved him, the Disco Inferno.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a tag team match scheduled for one fall. It is Raven and Canyon versus Fit Finley and Dave Taylor.
Okay, this is, I mean, you already hooked me with Raven. I am totally okay with that. And I like Dave Taylor being on this card. We don't hear enough about this man. Go. Tell me about it.
Well, we've got ourselves a fun, as I would like to say, humdinger of an opener here. There isn't much of a story other than Canyon trying to motivate Raven into caring about the match. It's a high-impact match with Finley working over Canyon. Frequent tags bring Taylor into the contest. He picks up where Fit left off. Raven is not interested whatsoever. The finish comes as Taylor and Finley are double-teaming Canyon. The referee breaks it up. He's forcing Finley out of the ring. Suddenly, Raven enters. He hits Taylor with an even flow, lays Canyon's arm over Taylor, rolls out of the ring, and walks backstage. Your winners, Canyon and Raven.
I mean, obviously, I'm happy that Raven won, but I'm not going to lie. The fact that you put Raven on this card in the opening contest getting a win makes me slightly worried about what you potentially have done later. Is this all right, let's give this to him because we're probably going to fire him the fuck up afterwards? Or is this just the beginning of a beautiful card? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But correct me if I'm wrong, because this just came back to me. I know I said I don't know much about this era, but was this during that weird time where Raven was, you saw the vignettes at his house and Canyon and his mom were trying to help him out?
Yes, it was kind of revealed that Raven was like a rich, spoiled kid that was just kind of not receptive to life, and I think just bored with what was surrounding him. He was just an unmotivated guy at this point.
Teenage angst at its finest in Raven.
Indeed.
I love
so
it.
I didn't get too far ahead or too far behind. As I said, I wanted to leave it open ended so that way whomever decides to book the previous events has sort of open field, as opposed to me going too far back and kind of handcuffing whomever is booking down the road. So the next match on the card is what, Tyrone?
The next match on the card is the Ayatollah of Rock and Roll, Chris Jericho, accompanied by Ralphus. God damn, I forget about Ralphus every time until I see him on my screen. Going one-on-one with everybody knows. Actually, I don't know if everybody knows this, but this is secretly one of Jay's favorite wrestlers, and that is Perry Saturn.
Well, I don't know if I'd say he's one of my favorites. I mean, I did enjoy his work in WWE.
Sorry. Jay is also a theme fanatic, and if you ask him his top themes, Perry Saturn's is always up there.
WWE version is probably in my top 15, I would say. Yes, I do enjoy that. Something about the siren. Anyhow, I think I had nice memories of it from house shows of years past. But nonetheless, we digress. The next match on the card is for the WCW World Television Championship. Your champion, Scott Steiner, is defending against Booker T.
Okay, this to me makes a lot more sense than Booker T being in a throwaway match with Disco Inferno. I'm curious to see what you have with DDP down the line because he was originally in the TV title match. So yeah, I'm not mad at it yet. Let's go.
Alrighty, so we have Booker T having earned the right to face the television champion by defeating Bryan Adams on an episode of Monday Nitro. The weeks leading into the pay-per-view, Booker would wrestle the NWO Gauntlet. One week it'd be Vincent, the next week Horace, even Scott Norton. He would always be able to evade the beatdown after his victories, which he would accumulate by beating all the aforementioned performers. At the pay-per-view, the two would have a very spirited match. Booker would hit high-impact offense on Steiner. Steiner would hit big-time power moves. As we reach the closing moments, Steiner is reeling from a flying forearm and an axe kick. Booker is poised to secure the victory when the NWO hits the ring. Vincent, Horace, and Norton beat down Booker. Stevie Ray emerges, who he too is a member of the NWO. He attempts to break this up. Booker has obviously had enough, and the group won't let up. Stevie then nails Vincent. The group now turns their attention to Stevie. He is beaten down by Steiner. Finally, the group takes their leave. The two brothers are left brutalized. We are now at a no contest. Steiner retains as a result, and both members of the former Harlem Heat are left in a heap in the ring.
Okay. I'm fine with this. I'm not gonna lie, when you went through the members of the NWO at that time, boy, oh boy, were we not in prime NWO at this point. Horace Hogan, Vincent, and who was the other one? Bryan Adams.
Yes.
That is definitely. Oh no, sorry, you said, and Scott Norton. You said, but they said, I mean, come on. As great of a worker as Scott Norton is, it's fucking Vincent and Horace Hogan. Like, this was not the NWO that was running wild a year and a half, 2 years ago. This is watered down, going to Wendy's and getting a soft drink there, knowing damn well it's not going to taste like your favorite soda. It's going to taste like water.
I don't know. I think Bryan Adams was a pretty vicious performer. I mean, remember his knife edge chop? It indeed cut like a knife.
Nope. Fuck you. Nope.
All right. Well, that's all I got on that one, pal.
I do enjoy the fact that we have the tease of Harlem Heat getting back together. I like the fact that if you're going to do a no contest, this is the way to do it. It still keeps Booker looking strong. It keeps Steiner with the belt, keeps him looking like a chicken shit heel to a degree. I'm totally okay with how you did this.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Every once in a while, I'm able to book something worthwhile. So what's next on our card and cannon, good sir?
Up next would be a one-on-one contest for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship with Billy Kidman defending against Chavo Guerrero.
Okay, well, in our scenario here, Billy Kidman is no longer the Cruiserweight champion. And in fact, the next match on our card is the Beast from the East, Bam Bam Bigelow, going up against Billy Kidman.
Okay. I need some backstory on this one because this is just hilarious to me right now.
Well, Bam Bam had been in WCW for a few months at this point. He'd been amassing an impressive series of victories, mainly over luchadors. Billy Kidman would challenge Bigelow to a match at the pay-per-view on Thunder. Kidman is seemingly attempting to avenge the savage nature in which a sadistic Bam Bam had taken pleasure in torturing his smaller opponents before securing victories. At the pay-per-view, Kidman comes out as a house of fire. He hits Bam Bam with everything he's got. Drop kicks, clotheslines. Kidman has Bam Bam teetering and as he heads to the top rope. Billy flies off the top rope in the attempt at a crossbody that is countered into a greetings from Asbury Park. Your winner, and handily so, Bam Bam Bigelow.
Now, did you just do this again because you know my love for Bammer, and we still have some names coming up that I am not a fan of. I I am so fucking worried for what's going on because now you've taken Goldberg's opponent away. You've taken Diamond Dallas Page's opponent away. You've taken Chavo Guerrero's opponent away. I I don't know where we're going with this. I'm totally okay with Bammer winning. You know that. I don't really like the idea that it's him and Kidman. It kind of hurts Kidman, I find, at this point, but it is what it is. Yeah, it's fine. It's like a solid C plus to me.
Yeah, see, for me, I don't think it hurts Kidman at all. Kidman was a pretty established star on WCW television at this point. He had become a face and a rather uh, big crowd favorite, especially amongst the female contingent. They all thought he was cute. At least a lot of them thought he was cute. He was working really good matches consistently on Nitro and Thunder at this point. So I think he's very well established to the crowd as well as to casual wrestling fans who are watching at this time, both channels. I do think that Bam Bam has a lot of star power at this point. So for Billy Kidman to do a job is going to do two things. He's going to get the rub from Bam Bam for going up against an established star. And Bam Bam is going to get the rub from Billy because Billy is so well established on WCW programming. So I think it actually helps both guys quite a bit.
Yeah, agree to disagree on this one, but I see your side. I am not telling you you're wrong. I just don't agree.
That is fair. I am ready to move on to the next, bud.
Well, next up, we have the match for the vacant WCW Tag Team Championship. In a 2 out of 3 falls contest, easy for me to say, we have Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko going up against one of my favorite fucking gimmicks ever, the West Texas Rednecks of Curt Hennig and Barry Windham. Did you know that Curt Hennig was from Minneapolis, Texas? Because I didn't.
Well, I have to correct you, unfortunately, my dear, close, personal, longtime friend. The West Texas Rednecks were not a thing at this point. That was in the summer of 1999. This was a tag team of Curt Hennig and Barry Windham as a singular unit that was nothing to do with country music. Tom Petty, not Tom Petty. Richard Petty, sorry. There you go. I'm on it.
Well, then I don't care anymore.
That's odd. But anyhow, we have a best 2 out of 3 falls match for the WCW World Tag Team Championships. We have Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko, your champion, going up against Curt Hennig and Barry Windham.
So it's not vacated at this point. Benoit and Malenko are the champs defending.
So the Horsemen would win the championship in the latter part of 1998. They had successfully defended the titles thus far, but by far their biggest challenge to date would be Hennig and Windham. It's a battle of the Horsemen, as both Hennig and Windham had been former Horsemen members. Both men run down Malenko and Benoit. They claim the Horsemen are nothing without them as members, and Hennig claims that he actually killed the Horsemen the day he left the group in 1997. There's a lot of back and forth. So as I said, it's sort of a battle of Horsemen's current versus Horsemen's past. The match actually is going to stay the same. I love this match. I thought it was really, really well worked. I really enjoy all the performers in it. So I couldn't change it. I didn't have the heart to change it. We have the same winners as well. The outcome is the same. Curt Hennig and Barry Windham go over and are your new WCW World Tag Team Champions. And, if you haven't seen this match, folks, if you haven't seen this pay-per-view, it's a pretty decent pay-per-view. But if you haven't seen this pay-per-view in its entirety and you want to see one match out of it, I would recommend you go back and check this one out. It's a really, really solid match.
I mean, it can't not be good when you have 4 performers of the high caliber of these gentlemen. So yeah, I get keeping it on the card. Makes total sense. I'm happy that Hennig and Windham still win. That makes me happy. Let's move on, I guess, to a weird placement for me on this card because it's another tag team match going up right after the tag title, and that's the Outsiders going up against Conan and Rey Mysterio Jr. in a hair versus mask match.
The next match on the card is for the WCW United States Championship. It is your champion, Roddy Piper, going up against Chris Jericho.
Okay. Yeah, this could be interesting. It's Piper's not really known for his technical wrestling, more of a brawler. I'm curious to see how these two would pair up. Yeah, go for it.
So, after defeating Bret Hart on Nitro for the championship, Piper issues an open challenge for Super Brawl. An arrogant Jericho was quick to take Roddy up on his offer. The two men exchanged some classic promos leading up to the pay-per-view, including Jericho calling Piper a Jurassic jackass and Piper calling Jericho simply a bum previously. The match is fairly even. Piper is selling for Jericho's offense. Piper hits a few jabs, even a drop kick. Jericho works over the hip and locks a leg lace submission, gaining leverage behind Mickey J's back with the ropes. The hold is broken by Mickey J, and Piper manages to get to his feet and pokes Jericho Three Stooges style in the eyes. Roddy applies the sleeper, to which Jericho counters by running Roddy into the corner, but the hold is still on. Chris Jericho is starting to lose steam. He manages to nail Piper in the hip twice. Piper winces in pain and lets go of the hold. Jericho then nails a dropkick and applies the Lion Tamer. Piper resists but has to tap. The pain is way too much. Your winner and new United States champion, Chris Jericho.
Interesting. I like this a lot. I love that Jericho is the US champ. I love that he beat Piper for it. It's really, really well booked, Jay. Really, really well booked.
Well, thank you very much. I just like the fact that Piper called him a bum.
Yeah, and as soon as you said that, like I could actually verbally hear him saying that because it is such a Piper insult that it was so perfectly done.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm glad you like this, man. I just think that this makes more sense. It's to me, it kind of shades of WrestleMania 8. I mean, you have Piper who has the championship for a short period of time, and he's going to give the nod to the younger star who is also Canadian. So I just feel like it made way more sense than Piper versus Scott Hall. That match I watched last night was not very good. So.
Yeah, 99 Scott Hall, you're not really getting his best work at this point. So I completely understand changing that around. Makes all the sense. Are you ready to move on to what would have been the World Television Championship match of Scott Steiner and Diamond Dallas Page?
Yeah, I will, but I just want to say in response to your Scott Hall comment that I think that he didn't look bad necessarily in the match. He was working fine. It wasn't so much that. I just think that the chemistry between Scott Hall and Roddy Piper was a little bit kind of hit and miss for me. And it just wasn't the kind of match in terms of, I don't know. I just think that I'd rather, to your point about seeing younger guys get elevated, I think Jericho makes way more sense. I think there's a time and place for two established stars to obviously go at it. But at this point and at this particular juncture in the card, I feel like if you're going to have a really established legendary star hold a championship, especially the United States Championship, I think it should be used to elevate a younger talent.
Yeah, just exactly how the Intercontinental Championship has been won by a lot of talents that needed elevating, like Albert, or I can't even continue with that sentence because that was just dumb. I completely get what you mean. It should be an elevating title. It shouldn't be two established stars fighting over it. You would never, ever, ever see Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair for the United States Championship. It should have been used as an elevation. And then maybe down the line, it goes the way that the U.S. and the Intercontinental title went a few years ago when Lesnar was champ and they needed something. And you have Reigns and Rollins and Styles and Owens all vying for that championship, making it feel important again.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think so. I mean, like going back to our Bret Hart conversation from beginning of the podcast, I mean, Bret Hart was saddled with the United States Championship for a large majority of his run in WCW. Not saddle's the wrong word. I mean, it was a prestigious championship, but to me, it was like, it'd be like if you took, say, Sting and you brought Sting over from the WCW side and you put him in the WWE during the Monday Night Wars, and then you put him in an Intercontinental Championship program. That's kind of the same thing to me. Clearly, he was worthy of a world title status and world title run, which he eventually got, but it just took a long time to get there. And I think by the time we got there, it was just a little bit too little too late. But but yeah, so that's sort of my point is fine. You can have these established stars, and with Roddy as well at this point in his career, him holding on to United States Championship and dropping it in shorter wasn't going to hurt him in the slightest.
No, not at all. Like Piper could do anything he wanted at this point, and nothing was going to affect his career. He'd already been, by this point, he was established for 20 years. It's totally fine.
Yeah, I agree. So
all
I'm
right,
ready
well,
to move
let's
on
see
to the next.
Yeah, well, originally it was Steiner and DDP for the television championship. So what do you got next?
So the next match on the card we have is Kevin Nash and Scott Hall going up against Rey Mysterio and Conan.
Really? You kept this match?
I kept this match, but I deleted the stip.
Okay. That kind of gets me a little bit more excited because it makes me think that the outsiders are going to lose. But tell me more, Jay.
It never made any sense to me that you would have Rey Mysterio unmask. I mean, it was a luchador tradition. I don't know why they did it. I've heard it explained to me in terms of what the rationale was, but that should never have happened. He should have kept his mask for his entire career. So that particular piece of business has been deleted, and we are now on to a tag team encounter, which comes about after Conan was excommunicated from the Wolfpack. He went back to his roots for some backup. While Rey isn't the biggest dog in the fight, he has the heart of a champion. The outsiders are dismissive of the duo from the get-go. Hall and Nash gleefully accept the challenge to a match of Super Brawl. The weeks leading up to the pay-per-view are riddled with indifference and arrogance from the NWO. At the event, Hall and Nash make their way to the ring with a gift-wrapped flat object. As Rey and Conan enter, Hall offers the gift to Rey. Mysterio unwraps it to reveal a sign, presumably stolen from an amusement park, that indicates you must be this tall to enjoy this ride. The outsiders are beside themselves with laughter. The match is largely dominated by Hall and Nash.
I'm sorry. I gotta stop you for 1 second there. That is one of the greatest little things that you've ever thrown into any of these matches. That trumps the loaded baguette. Yep, keep going. That popped me.
Okay, good. I was hoping I'd get you at some point. So I just have to find where I'm going here, folks, because I do read from notes. I write these matches out. So the match is largely dominated by Hall and Nash. Nash works over Conan for much of the bout. It's seeming the outsiders want Rey to themselves. As Conan manages to finally get the hot tag, Rey is a house of fire. Unfortunately, it's just not enough. Nash lands a powerbomb. He tags Hall. Conan manages to muster enough energy to clear Nash off the apron. And as the two exchange blows at ringside, a prone Rey is poised for an outsider's edge. Hall has Rey up. Mysterio counters into a hurricane runner that sends Hall into the ropes. Rey rolls up Scott for the pin. Your winners, Rey Mysterio and Conan.
I am really blown away at a lot of your booking on this. I am shocked that your favorites are losing to mine, and it makes me so excited. Now, I have a question, though, because this era, like I said, not the most familiar with. So the finger poke of doom happened, and at that point, there was still Black and White, and there was Wolfpack. And then they pretty much amalgamated back into one again, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
So why did Conan actually get kicked out, or did he leave? Like, did they kick a bunch of the guys out? Did a bunch of the guys leave? Was there just it was done with no story? Like, what happened there?
If memory serves, they end up beating down Conan after they reamalgamated, and they just kind of got rid of him. I think that I don't recall exactly the circumstances. Again, with our multiverse here, I don't even know if the finger book of doom has happened. I don't know if that's something that's going to happen in our booking. I've kept it vague, as I said. So if you book, say, Starrcade 1998 next December, or this upcoming December, I don't know if that's going to be a part of it, or rather you're going to book a couple of days after, because it happened about 4 days after the event, or sold out 1999. So in terms of our story, I am still having Conan come out of the...
One thing that has happened, though, that it really did happen is you you have amalgamated the NWO back into one, and you've had Conan be kicked out of it.
Exactly. Yes, he's been excommunicated from the. I just called it the Wolf Pack because it was the core kind of nucleus of the NWO, whether they were reformed or individual factions. So, I mean, Hogan was part of the Wolf Pack at this point. So I just feel as though, for the purposes of the story I wanted to tell here, it made a lot of sense for Conan to continue to be not part of the NWO and to go back to his roots with some of his running buddies there with Rey Mysterio and the like.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with that. Is this that weird fucking era where Hogan was walking around in wide leg jeans with Jordans and that weird like do-rag two cap thing that he would wear from time to time?
Are you talking about that picture that you see on Twitter from time to time?
Yes, 100% I'm talking about that picture. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I think he had like a plaid overshirt on or something too, like over
Yeah.
an NWO shirt.
I'm pretty sure it was 98, 99, somewhere in there, yeah.
Oh my God. People bitch about how bad Zubaz was or Zubaz, but no, that to me is like that trumps the Rock's fanny pack picture that everybody makes fun of. Like that was the worst look in professional wrestling.
Quite possibly so, sir. Quite possibly so. I'm ready to move on to the next. How about you?
Well, up next we had Scott Hall going up against Roddy Piper for the U.S. title. Again, kind of weird that you had Hall doing a double duty on this show, but anyway, I know we don't have it, so what do we have next?
Well, next up on the card, we have Hollywood Hulk Hogan going up against Diamond Dallas Page.
For a title or no?
Singles match, my friend.
Okay, all right. Well, that leads me to believe where we're going with the main event. I think I have figured that out, but let's go. How is Hogan not champ anymore? What's going on?
Well, DDP had been a thorn in the side of the NWO since the beginning of the faction's birth and infancy. After being laid out weeks earlier on Nitro, Hogan had been cutting promos suggesting that DDP should retire. If he doesn't return, the leader, or rather, if he does return, the leader of the NWO would put him down once and for all for good. We won't see DDP until the Go Home Nitro, where he would emerge during one of these sarcastic, dismissive Hollywood promos. Page would beeline it to the ring as Hogan takes a powder and accepts the challenge after hitting a diamond cutter on the Disciple. At the pay-per-view, the match is announced as a Falls Count Anywhere encounter. It's a lot of back and forth. Page is hitting hard right hands. Hogan then is thrown into the steps. The guardrails next. Hogan would gain the upper hand with a chair shot to Page's knee. Hogan would work over DDP with a hard right hands of his own. Hogan signals to the back as a prone DDP is laid out, presumably to have NWO members emerge to put Page away for good. Hall and Nash appear and are en route to the ring when Booker T and Stevie Ray head them off at the entranceway with steel chairs in hand. It's a stalemate in the aisleway. As Booker T and Stevie maintain the high ground, holding off any NWO interference, Hogan is in disbelief. DDP mounts a comeback, hitting a series of hard right hands and a clothesline. Hogan rakes the eyes and hits the big boot on DDP. As Hogan gains momentum and steam, hitting the ropes twice, presumably for a leg drop, DDP emerges and nails Hogan with a diamond cutter for the pin. Your winner, Diamond Dallas Page.
The very, very rare Hulk Hogan loss in WCW. Wow. I am all for this. I really, really hate the fact that you're probably going to have Goldberg squash somebody in the main event because you're doing so well. It's got to end at some point, right?
I suppose so. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, pal.
No, I like this. I like that you didn't have the belt on Hogan. I like that DDP went over Hogan. Again, we've talked about this multiple times. It does not hurt Hulk Hogan in the slightest to ever lose. He is the most made man. Like honestly, I would put him over Stone Cold Steve Austin when I think the most recognizable professional wrestler in history. I think more people know who Hulk Hogan is than Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that's my personal opinion. You can agree or not, but nothing that Hogan could do at this point would hurt him. He was so over. Whether you loved him or hated him, everyone knew him, so let him lose. It does not bother it at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I would say I wouldn't argue the point that in kind of pop culture or society in general at large, I would think that Hogan's probably more of a household name than Steve Austin. At maybe not at this point, maybe in late 90s, maybe not. Maybe Austin would have been more of a household name, but I think nowadays probably still it is true that he would be the one that people would think of. Maybe The Rock as well. But nonetheless, yeah, I do think that this match was. I also really enjoy the idea of calling back to the Booker T and Stevie Ray stuff, having them head off the NWO ringside. I think makes a lot of sense. It kind of pays off what we had done earlier in the card, and it's clear now that the Harlem Heat's probably going to be getting back together as a tag team, and you have some built-in story there. So I kind of like where this ends up landing.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about it at all. I like that you brought back Booker T and Stevie Ray. It wasn't just like leaving them, aren't they at the beginning of the show? No, they seem to be fully back on the same page, and they're brothers. Blood is thicker than water. That's what the storyline is here. All right, are we going on, or do you want to go on anymore, or are we ready to move on?
I think we're ready to go to the main event of the evening, pal.
All right, well, why don't you just tell me what it is, because we don't have Goldberg versus Bam Bam Bigelow, and we don't have Hollywood Hogan versus Ric Flair. So why don't you just tell me right now that you have Bill Goldberg squashing Ric Flair?
I have the WCW World Heavyweight Championship match. I have Goldberg, the champion, defending against the Nature Boy Ric Flair. You are correct, sir.
Yeah, I'm kind of okay. So is Goldberg's streak still intact at this point?
I can't tell you because, I'm going to let you read between the lines because Goldberg's the champion.
Okay.
So presumably, yes. But again, I can't make that determination because we haven't booked those events yet.
Okay, cool. I'll listen and see what I think.
All right. So Goldberg had successfully defended the championship on a number of occasions, taking on all comers. In the weeks leading up to Super Brawl, Ric Flair had preached about how tradition was lost in the war with the NWO. Flair would challenge Goldberg to a traditional championship match. It's a matter of honor. Put the NWO aside and have the championship match for World Championship Wrestling. Both men are fan favorites at this point. The Go Home Nitro gets heated as Flair cuts a heel-like promo talking about how he is going to do whatever it takes to get back to a real wrestling champion on top of the mountain and not an overhyped flash in the pan that he thinks Goldberg is. Both men make their way to ringside with their traditional pomp and circumstance and fanfare. Flair takes a moment to hug his son David at ringside, whom Tony Schiavone recognizes and mentions on air as we've never seen David Flair on television before. The match is well worked. Goldberg starts off hot with his obligatory power moves. Flair eventually gains the upper hand with a series of chops and chop blocks. Flair works over Goldberg's leg in an effort to neutralize his power moveset. Goldberg gains his bearings and mounts a comeback. Goldberg then gains the upper hand and nails Flair with a hard clothesline that sends Flair into both the referee and the corner. Flair is dazed but manages to hit a low blow on Goldberg, sending him headfirst into the post at the same time. Both men are down. Eric Bischoff then runs down to the ring in a referee's jersey and is poised to make the count. As both competitors are starting to stir, David Flair jumps the rail and confronts Eric. Rick, on his feet at this point, is livid. He shoves Bischoff down as David looks on. As Rick turns his back and his attention back to Goldberg, David Flair hits a vicious low blow of his own onto Ric Flair. David and Eric exit the ring while an oblivious Goldberg hits a prone Flair with a spear and jackhammer for the pin. Your winner and still World's Heavyweight Champion, Goldberg. We go off the air as we cut to the back and the backstage area with Eric leading David into a Hummer limo with champagne popping, ladies ready to party, and Hulk Hogan with an empty seat beside him.
The most 90s thing about this and WCW period is the fact that they got into a Hummer limo. The fact that that is a detail that you threw in there, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought you would.
Okay, so I like how you say that you're leaving it up to my interpretation for if the streak is intact, when the first fucking sentence you said was Goldberg has been taking on all comers and defeating them. I'm like, okay, so the streak is still intact. Let's be real.
Well, you don't know. Yeah, wait a minute. You don't know whether or not this is his second time with the title. You don't know if he lost it and gained it back. We don't even know if he's won it back at that infamous Nitro in Atlanta back in July either. So there's a lot of pieces to be moved. Actually, no, we do know that because we rebooked, you rebooked Bash at the Beach 1998, and Goldberg was the champion at that point. So has he lost the championship and regained it at this point? I don't know.
Probably not. I'm going to just say that because I know the way you would book it and I know the way I would book it. So probably not. And if that's the case, if his streak is still intact, I definitely love the fact that Flair was not the one to end it because he shouldn't have been, which I totally agree with. The David Flair situation, I get it. It really hadn't been done much at this point, so it's kind of fresh. There weren't the father screwing over the son screwing over the father, all the family drama that we know and love in professional wrestling this day. That really wasn't a thing yet at this point, so it makes sense. But my one issue with it is I see that we're leading to possible Flair versus Flair. David was not a good worker. I like that he's sitting with Hulk Hogan, but at the same time, I don't like David Flair in the NWO. If that makes sense, like I don't think that the NWO should have ever had David Flair.
No, and I mean, I don't know necessarily if that's where it's going. I mean, in my mind, I certainly don't want to, book outside the parameters of this event. But in my mind, this is a means to an end. We're trying to screw with Ric Flair at this point. The NWO is, Bischoff is, Hogan is, whomever else is involved with this particular angle. So they've somehow brainwashed David Flair into thinking that all of the trappings that any young 20-year-old, hot-blooded male would be interested in, going out and partying, being around beautiful women, being in limousines, being around big stars like Hogan. All those trappings are something that's going to become very attractive to David Flair. And of course, the fact that Flair's father, Rick, was on the road for the better part of his young life, his adolescence, he probably has some resentment towards that fact. And at the same token, he's also trying to assert himself as a man in his father's eyes as well. So I think that the story plays out that this has been capitalized upon, this perceived weakness by the NWO, and from there you go on into telling that story, whether or not David Flair is a member of the NWO or whether or not he is, sort of a plaything that's discarded after a couple of weeks after they get bored with him. That's yet to be determined, I think.
All right, then I'm fine with it. I am totally fine with where we go with it because it could be David Flair infiltrating the NWO for his dad and being the man on the inside. There's a lot we could go with this one. So yeah, overall, dude, I think you did a pretty damn good job of making this a very good pay-per-view. Sorry, a premium event.
No, it was still a pay-per-view then, and it's still a pay-per-view today. So thank you very much, my friend. It was a labor of love this week. I did enjoy it. I thought that I was onto something here, but you never can tell, and I never know how you're going to react to things. So I'm pleasantly surprised that you were pleasantly surprised.
Okay, well, on that note, Big Daddy, what do you got for me next week?
Well, I'll tell you what Big Daddy has for you. He has an event that he is knowing that you are very much clamoring to rebook. It is from the month of February in the month of 1999, or rather 1998. It is not No Way Out of Texas. It is not Super Brawl. It is ECW CyberSlam 1998, and it is on tap next week, courtesy of good old-fashioned Tyrone.
I am going to make Brackus just defeat everybody in the ECW arena, if that's where it was. I assume it probably was. But yes, that I know this event. I know that Brackus gets the title shot. Oh, we're going to have some fun with this one, bud. It's been a while since we've gone to the land of extreme, and I'm kind of excited to do it.
Yes, I cannot wait to watch this particular pay-per-view. It's going to be a blast for me.
I bet it will. I bet it will. You know what? You may enjoy it. There's going to be some good wrestling on there. It's not just going to be all fucking blood, guts, and Sandman.
Well, till next week, ladies and gentlemen, we are very much eagerly anticipating Tyrone's rebooking of ECW. As you know, I am very much enjoying that particular offering, as you can tell by the cadence of my voice. Tyrone, where can our listening audience find us on social media?
On Twitter at good_enemies, Instagram at good_enemies, Facebook at good friends better enemies. And as always, you can find us on the Counted Out 7 YouTube channel or head over to countedout7.com for anything you want to know about Jay, myself, Tyler, the other dude. You know, he doesn't matter. Come at me, bro.
And for myself, for Tyrone, for Tyler, for the other dude, for WCW Super Brawl 9, David Flair's Low Blows, Hummer limos, and cardboard cutouts from amusement parks. You've been listening to the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast.
Bye.